What if I told you our fear of migrants has nothing to do with immigration and everything to do with cake? I'm Rachel, I'm a public and social policy consultant, and I want what I know to be what you know. And today we're talking about zero-sum logic. So zero-sum logic is the belief that one person's gain automatically means someone else's loss. It's actually a cognitive shortcut that your brain uses when you feel threatened, stressed, or if you live a long time with scarcity. The scarcity mindset is about the constant awareness or fear that there isn't enough to go around when actually there is. Even now, all we hear from our politicians is tough choices about finite resources. Your brain becomes hardwired to look for threats to those resources. And I thought this was about cake. Well, the cake or pie analogy is used very commonly by economists and social policy theorists when explaining zero-sum logic. So let's imagine all the resource that we have in the UK as a cake. So you see somebody else eating the cake, getting more attention, more resources, more benefits, whatever it is that they're getting, and the brain thinks, that's a piece of cake that I can't have anymore. The cake is shrinking. We never think the system must have created more cake. We think my piece has potentially gone. And when it comes to immigration, we feel it more keenly than ever. We see people coming here to take our cake. So the media narratives and the political narratives that we're bombarded with around housing, around NHS places, around school places, around jobs, around money in general, these are all framed as finite resources. And the more people, the smaller the slices get. That's the perception. That's zero-sum logic. Resources aren't fixed. Infrastructure expands. And if I'm going to beat the hell out of this analogy, immigrants don't take our cake. They help us to bake more. They staff the NHS, they work in care homes, logistics, hospitality, farms. They pay taxes, they fill labour shortages, and they increase spending in our local economies. But we do feel stretched. Our systems are underfunded and they are failing. But this has got nothing to do with other people taking pieces of our imaginary cake, and everything to do with the austerity neoliberal logic that has crashed these services on purpose so that, amongst many things, we would experience a scarcity mindset and be very susceptible to zero-sum logic arguments that play to our deep-seated fears that somebody else is coming for our cake. Completely true of cake. If this was a real cake, it's true. There's only so much cake, sadly, to go around. But that's not how economies work. It's easy to manipulate. The fear of loss is predictable. So instead of addressing the reasons that our social services, our welfare state, our infrastructure, our transportation is collapsing, underfunding, privatisation, infrastructure decay, wealth inequality, wealth concentration at the top, council tax, because that's my whole thing. Instead of looking at those things, it's easier to point at immigrants and say, they're taking your cake. It diverts our anger away from the people who messed with the recipe and shrank the cake in the first place and towards people who had absolutely nothing to do with this. Who doesn't want more cake? Cake is awesome. Immigration isn't the threat. Scarcity is the threat. Zero-sum logic is the threat. So think about it, think critically. Next time you hear these things, think, are they actually coming and taking these things? Or have I been trapped in a scarcity mindset with zero-sum logic and it's actually cake that doesn't exist in the first place? We've been primed over decades, and even today I've been watching the news and seeing politicians talk about things as though they are finite. And I know that they know that it isn't. When you understand that cake was never real to begin with, your fear starts to slip away. We can get out of this mindset. We can realise that we have been manipulated into believing that people are coming here for our resources and that those resources are fixed, finite and scarce. I really just want to go back to enjoying cake. Policymakers know this. They know how to manipulate the narrative. They know exactly what they're doing. We need better policy.